Hello, welcome to the Wandering Minds podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Mickey.
And this is Joe Mancuso. What's up, baby?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, we've known each other a couple years. You have a really... let's start off with who you are, Joe. Tell me who you are. Tell the people who you are and what you do.
All right. Like I said, my name is Joe Mancuso. I've been around the Northwest a lot in my life. I was born in Seattle and moved around to various states: Montana, Idaho, Alaska, Idaho again, Alaska again,
Wow.
Oregon, California, Oregon. So, my social skills have been one of the keys to my life, right? Making friends or, reacquainting for those that I've been around before too. So, I came here about 1979.
Okay.
And, so I was here as a sophomore in high school, so I didn't really enter anything as a freshman. So
Here as in Eugene?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I went to Marist Catholic High School, and thought that football was going to be it for me. Right, my dad was a highly recruited football player up in the Seattle-Tacoma area. He went to University of Washington, played in the Rose Bowl, 1964, against
cool.
Dick Butkus, which a lot of people know if you're a football fan. You know Dick Butkus.
I think I've heard like a joke.
Yeah.
There's a couple out there.
So I just thought that was going to be kind of my thing, right? And so I didn't really apply myself in school too much. I mean, it was,
Right.
I got, some C's here and there, but I thought football was going to be it.
Yeah.
In my senior year, I was playing linebacker, and I slipped during a tackle and shattered my arm in almost 3 places. It was nasty. And so at that point I knew, okay, this isn't going to be it. And what is my calling, or what is my talent? And I've always been kind of an entertainer. I played in a heavy metal band for about 30 years.
Nice.
And so being on stage was kind of one of those things that I knew was going to be.
Are you going to name drop?
What's that?
Are you going to name drop?
First band was The Hunger, and then the second band was Hollow Man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Classic.
And so knowing that being an entertainer or being on stage, something like that was something that I just knew that I needed to be in front of people. And so starting a family, usually around 87, 88. My first son was born in 88. Second son was born in 92. So my boys now are in their 30s.
Yeah.
But I was putting myself into like odd end jobs that I just felt like I needed to be, the mainstay of the family and be able to have the income, right? My wife, we've been married 36 years, she has been in the dental business forever. And so I took it upon myself to say, I need to do something, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing odd and end jobs. I was delivering milk for a company. I was working at Dun & Bradstreet. I was just trying to just get money and just support my family. And one day a good friend of mine called and said, hey, would you be interested in substituting for me in special education and working with some severely disabled students? And I said, sure. And I thought, what the heck, I love being around people and that. And I had been coaching at that time too. And so I did a variety of youth sports. And so being around youth was something I really liked.
Yeah.
And I got there and I just really, really loved it. And it was hard. It was super hard. And so I got a phone call from two of the behavior gurus in Eugene at the time was Dr. Michael George. I believe he's in St. Louis now. And Dr. Ron Williams, I believe he's back east in university level too. And they want to know if I want to work with some of the most severe behavior students in the district. And I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right. And
Behavior as in like what some people would label as ADHD, problematic.
probably looking at students who've been categorized as emotionally disturbed, right? So there's a variety of factors that could be part of that, right? Yeah. But most of it has a variety of, like I said, it can be anything from like maybe fetal alcohol, right? And having some disabilities, that aspect, having some trauma in youth, right? Maybe just a form of, family life has been really hard. You might have been adjudicated because of behavior as well too, right? And so I was getting into that. And that was my calling.
Yeah.
Although at the time I didn't have a degree. And so I thought, I need to do this. And so I ended up in the mid 90s, I went back to school and I ended up getting a bachelor degree. But what was interesting is I got a bachelor degree in theater.
Oh, wow.
So I knew that, right, this acting and this being on stage was going to be something that I was like, I need to get something that I'm good at, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, I want to get my master's degree in special education, but my bachelor degree is something I really want to focus on, something that I knew that I could be good at. And I had some great mentors, and I got into University at Oregon and got my theater degree there. And then I immediately got a job. And so I put the master's on hold for a little bit and started working at Sheldon High School for about 13 years there.
Oh, wow.
Then I did some middle school behavior, and then I was at Willamette High School for a good period of time, and now I'm at a Cascade Middle School. So I've been in the behavior business, I say, for almost 25 years now, education. I have a bachelor degree in theater.
Wow.
I have a master's degree in educational leadership. I have another master's degree in curriculum and instruction. And then starting next month, I'm going to do a doctorate program and look at getting a PhD in, I think it's an educational kind of pattern of working in my field. So I would say it's more educational change is what's going to be my doctorate. Cool. From someone who really didn't take school seriously to having where I'm at now, you run into certain people and they kind of go, Joe Mancuso, really? First of all, you got a bachelor degree? That's surprising. 2 master's degrees? That's really surprising. And now you're going to try a doctorate?
You're not going to try, you're going to do.
Yeah. The students I work with are definitely something that I really focus on relationships first, right?
Yeah.
Getting to know what they like, and not worrying so much about A's and B's and C's and D's, right? There is a focus obviously at the high school level around credit, graduation, and those type of things, right? But you got to get to know the students first, their family, what it's like in their community. Yeah. And if you don't, then you're never going to be able to connect and be able to get them to have a form of respect for you too, right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine you'd also have to gear them towards what they're passionate about as well, because it seems to me like it took you almost decades to find out what you were passionate about. Correct? I mean, you kind of knew, but then it's like it was dialed in.
Yeah, right? I think if you look at the students I've been with for many years, a lot of the students are workforce kids. Some will go to community college. Yeah. So not a lot of them are going on to a 4-year university, right? Yeah. And so focusing on you're right, their skill set, right? Yeah. Their interest level. Of course, it's harder when they're younger because they really don't know yet. But if somebody says to me, I want to be an astronaut, I'm like, let's do it. Yeah. Right. And so really try to focus on giving them, some guidance on what that looks like. Yeah. Now it might be hard and you might tell them like, this is going to be really something that's important to you, but pretty difficult, but let's show you what it's like. Yeah.
Well, life is hard though. And they already know life is hard. Now I got a question that's similar, but different. So my 16-year-old Izzy, she just got her license and we got a thing in the mail that now says she's okay to vote. What are your thoughts on that? Working with the age bracket and the kids that you work with, because I don't like it. I'm one of those people that's like, this kid doesn't pay bills. What the hell does she know about?
Is that legit though? I remember you mentioning that, but I didn't take the time to look it up.
Well, I haven't really, but it looks legit. It looks like a legit letter. So I'm curious.
I don't know.
Why the hell would we think that 16-year-olds should have the right to vote on big issues?
Can't even buy cigarettes.
They can't even go. They can't even go see an
Which they shouldn't.
Well, they can't even go see an R-rated movie. Right. And it's like my daughter hasn't paid a bill in her life. What does she know about life really issues? So, what are your thoughts on that? Coming from the perspective of the socioeconomic status that you're dealing with as far as children go.
Yeah, the one thing I see, I just mentioned this the other night to somebody that what I see in my students, and usually like I would say freshmen, sophomores, kind of because they're the younger grade, right? I like talking about that age group.
Yeah.
I noticed that whenever there's an election or it's an election year, they usually follow what their parents do.
Yeah.
And so for them to go, hey, I'm going to vote, they would just tap into, what their party might be, right?
Yeah.
Or where their interests might be. And so I see that a lot. I see their comments or, I guess whatever their feelings are towards politics
Have been biased.
It's just, and it's kind of funny because you'll see the parent, you meet the parent, and you're like, oh, that's
makes
straight
sense.
in line, right? It is. It's like identical,
Right.
But as a teacher, you just gotta be like, you gotta be so level.
Yeah. Well, you got to be impartial.
It is. It's very different. Although I provide a variety of things for students to access current events.
Yeah.
And so for them, I want to make sure they got an opportunity to see like, there's some sides here. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It always isn't one way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that's super important. My kids don't know who I vote for. Yeah. And I won't tell them because I want them to
make an informed decision.
Yeah. They'll be like, blah, 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 Trump. Well, look that up. Blah, 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 Biden. Look it up.
Yeah.
Correct.
Come back. Right. I've even had this discussion with my mom who is like super extreme one-sided. Right. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go look that article up and see like the legitimacy of that because it's like, I want them to make informed decisions.
Yeah.
Right. Not a biased one because mom feels this way.
Yeah.
Who has, a lot more life experience, but whatever.
Right.
But like, this is how mom came to this decision or dad. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's super important because when, just like you're saying, when parents are like super vocal about it at home, of course the kids are going to side with that because that's what they're hearing.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
So and it tends to be, unfortunately, with politics, like very polarized.
Right.
Yeah.
And like that type of clique, right? They find friends like that.
Yeah.
And that's the other part too, right? And so they're connected with that, right? And so you might get, like in my world, you might get students who feel one way, they connect, and now you've got a load of behavior, right? Because you've got this doubled up. Yeah. And so it's like, it's a little more intense,
you got that
right?
pack mentality going on. Yeah.
And then, there's a variety of ways that behavior is kind of introduced to other kids. And so then you have to really balance that out. So it's just definitely a challenge.
Well, that's even as an adult. I have friends that are like, I would never be friends with a Trump supporter. Okay.
Yeah.
I would never be friends with a Biden supporter. Okay, but you don't know what I am.
Right.
So I think
we're buddies.
Like you have no idea.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's more to a person than their political stance.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, teenagers, they don't have the life experience to really understand that. And because in our society it is so polarizing.
Yeah.
It's like I'll tell you a quick story. Some students actually have accessed adulthood early.
Yeah.
And the reason is they've made some bad choices. And I had this student, she ran away from home at 13. Hit the streets, was pretty hard, was adjudicated.
What does adjudicated mean?
Means you were put into a youth facility for crime or drugs or alcohol. So Serbu, which is down by off Centennial Boulevard, by Austin Stadium. So it's like, yes, the youth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the youth juvenile prison. So usually students have been adjudicated for any one of those type of crimes. And so this student had also done some serious heavy substance. And at one point decided that they wanted to get it together. And they decided that they were going to come back to high school and they were going to give it their all. And they went through a rap court, which is type of a program where, even during the school day, they got to do a UA, right? They got to make sure that they're still clean and they're doing the things to do. This student rocked it out. She was unbelievable. She graduated on time.
Good for her.
And so there was an opportunity for what they call Student of the Year. And she was nominated for Student of the Year. Oh. And so she asked me, would you like to speak for me at the Valley River Inn at the ceremony? And I'm like, this is pretty cool, right? This is something that I take pride in because this is, of all the years I've worked, this has never happened.
Right.
Right. And when you look at wins, like they say, how do you, like one of my administrators one day was like, how do you celebrate your wins? And some teachers are like, oh, we have a pizza party or we have, prizes. I'm like, wins? Like if my student can get breakfast in the morning and be focused and get a good night's rest, then that's a win, right? And I said, my wins are like 0.00003, like not many.
Yeah.
But this one was like, this was something special, right? So I show up. I did the presentation. She also talked. She got a killer award. It was awesome. The next day she came to school, you know, super proud. And at lunch, I got a text message that said, hey, your student is over at another high school and just beat up another girl. And I was like, here we go, right? Yeah. You just thought you had that win. Yeah. You just thought that you had somebody who just did something. But sometimes in that world, it's always going to be kind of like have something that still connects, right? Yeah. And it's not a good connection. It's a bad connection. Yeah. But eventually, you know, students move on, and I will receive emails sometimes from students saying, hey, thank you. I'm sorry. You don't have to say you're sorry to me. Yeah. You know, your transition is different, and everybody's is different. Yeah. And so just know that you had some guidance, and you're going to make it.
And in the long run, that guidance will come back and help them. You know, it may take some hoops and some burning hoops and some hurdles to jump over, but they'll eventually look back and say, man, that dude told me this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a young gentleman that, contacted me a while back around Thanksgiving, and he had been sleeping in some paper boxes. He was homeless. And I said, come on over for Thanksgiving. Yeah. And so we gave him a meal, gave him a shower, clothed him. And I said, what do you need, man? He says, I need like $20. I need to get my license out of the safety deposit. And I said, here's the thing. I have a bicycle in my garage. Take it. I don't want it back. And then here's $20. And I said, I want you to do something. Mm-hmm. And so years went by, and then all of a sudden I got a knock on my door, and there he was with his wife and a kid.
Nice.
And he just said, I just want to drop by to say thank you. Yeah. And that was the coolest thing. Yeah. It's just exactly what you were saying. Yeah. To have that connection, right?
Yeah. So. And sometimes it's those little things, and we talk about this a lot. It's like sometimes if you just smile at somebody, you've just given them what they needed to make it, just to make it. And it's like it's those little things that count. A lot of people are gonna take for granted the opportunity to give those little things to people. They're not going to do it, right? Because they're in their own world, they're in their own thing. But it's like it helps if I'm able to give back. It helps me in that moment, right? And it helps them. So you've just perpetuated something beautiful. That's it.
Well, I think in that like vulnerable age of being a teenager, also it's super important to have. Especially in those situations, have an adult that shows that they have faith in you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Right. So just having someone say like, you can do this, like you got this, right? You can push through. I think that's super imperative. The one memory my husband has of being in high school is a teacher actually telling him, you'll never amount to shit. Yep. And he has taken that to heart. And it's like, unfortunately, we as humans like remember the negative versus the positive. Now, I don't think he was given a lot of positive input anyway, but especially having an adult like
especially
put you down as a teenager,
a person of an authoritative figure. Yeah, like your role.
Right? Yeah, and here he is, 41, and he still remembers his teacher. And like, if he was ever to see that dude wherever, right? Like, how would that go down? Because the like pattern that like put him into early drug and alcohol, and then
the snowball effect
of like not, you don't have support at home, right? And so then you'd have like these other adults that are just telling you you're a piece of crap. Like, it's not helpful. So it's really great that these kids have someone like you to like help push them through.
Well, you're like an angel, right? And I don't mean to sound cheesy. Wow, man. Because you don't. Well,
did my wings just go out back?
But it's true, right? I mean, there's certain people on this planet that are put in positions you may not get anything out of it. And this is what I told my coach, right? He gave so much to others and I told him, it's like, you'll probably never get anything in return back in a sense, right? Like a physical or like monetary way. But what you're giving to others, it outweighs that. Unfortunately, you may suffer not getting shit, right? Getting shit on. It's those little wins. Yeah. It's what you're giving to others is what's really, really important. Angels, you know what I mean? People
angel.
Satan was an angel. But you know what I mean? It's like people like you are put on this planet to heal, to help heal.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see you. So with the stress of your job, how do you cope at home? How is it? How do you turn off that switch?
My wife's waiting for this answer.
Right. Right.
It is. You have to have someone, and she's the one. Like, I go home every night, and it's funny because the stories I tell, they seem to supersede this next story, and it just never gets any worse in a sense of low level. It's always high level. Yeah. And so sitting down and just going over things and having her listen, and she's able to just go, you got to be kidding me again. Right. Wow, and those type of conversations happen a lot. My boys, both of them, my oldest is a special education teacher as well. My youngest, he's also in education. I never thought that they would kind of follow in my footsteps. I thought they would do something different, but it's super cool, and it's super proud to have, your kids. So there's stories there that we talk because we're family.
Right.
There's not many people out there. That's the other thing, like you say, right? Like, I just can't walk into a room and know that somebody's in the field that I work in. But that's the one person, my wife's really the one person who really knows what's coming almost when I come home. Like, you're not going to believe this, but I wanted to kind of mention, like what you were talking about too, about what you do for others. Like, for me, I had a conversation with a student last spring he was adjudicated up in the Multnomah area, came here, he was in foster care, and he was selling some substance, getting himself in trouble, bad family life. But a conversation I had with him around, you need to make decisions with better people. Mm. That felt good to me. That was like real high level feeling. So for me, it's like, how do I feel when I'm really disciplined on a student? And I'm not easy, trust me. Like, I got kind of hardcore about how I want to approach things, and the kids would try to tell you that, but they know I mean that. And like, to me, like, that's the price of gold, right? You're just giving that type of feeling to somebody. Not a grade, not a credit, but just that type of piece.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. So, and you do play hockey.
I do. Yeah.
So that is an outlet, I would imagine.
Is there a local hockey team?
Yeah, there's adult league here. Yeah, they've been here for many years, actually. My oldest son, he got into it about maybe 12, 15 years ago when he was playing goalie. He said, "Dad, come back and play hockey," because I'd skated as a youth and did some things. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And so we started playing together, and it just kind of was grown from there. And there's different divisions. There's A, B, C leagues. And so we started in low level. But the cool thing is we get to play together. So, now many years through, it's been really fun to kind of get into this and not knowing a lot of the guys in the league. And now you know a lot more. Mm-hmm. I mean, there may be moments where, it gets chippy in every sport, right? And so, back in the day I think I was a little more aggressive, and I was in the penalty box a lot, and I was doing a few things right that probably shouldn't have been done.
Right.
Now, many years later, it's like you may not like a guy, but there's a draft every season, and so you may end up with that guy. So that's what the camaraderie, you talk about sports, is that you end up knowing somebody totally different. You walk in the locker room, you're like, oh shit, there's that guy. And he's like, oh, there's that guy, right? So that's the cool part about our league, is you get to know others, and now you know more of the people, and so it's a lot more. For me now, it's more relaxing.
Yeah. Well, you are getting older. It's not like you're getting younger, right?
I know, man. Hitting 59, to be 60 next year.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, dude.
Who'd have thunk? I didn't even. Wow. Yeah. Wow. You look amazing,
yeah, thanks, man. Yes.
And you have lost weight.
What's that?
You have lost weight.
I have lost 30 pounds. I got on, I decided my youngest son was doing the 75 hard program, him and his girlfriend, and they did it. And man, let me tell you, they had mentioned it to me. I looked at it, and I had I've got some health issues that I've been dealing with for years, and I was at the doctor and I got on the scale and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
I'm like, 236? I'm like, how did I get to 236? And I thought to myself, oh, I was only doing hockey for cardio and I was lifting heavy during the week, and that was it. So I was really lazy, right, about doing more cardiovascular and being able to eat healthier. And so that moment, that was in April. The next day I was like, downloaded a fitness app, started counting my calories, did some macros, did a variety of things.
Yeah.
And I got up in the morning and did fasted cardio in the morning for 45. And then I did weights in the afternoon for 45 every day for 75 days and dropped 30 pounds. And it felt really good.
30 pounds in 75 days is a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. Like, think about it. You could put 30 pounds on in a year or two. It only takes 75 days to take it off.
Yeah, if you're disciplined, it'll come off fast. Yeah.
And that's the key to everything. Like, as you know, me being in the weight room and things, it's mental.
Oh,
it's a mental game that you got to tell yourself.
The ice cream.
Right.
Unless it fits your macros.
That's true.
You should come to FS because they have the Staiku machine, which is the 360 degree. It shows you your whole.
It's not flattering.
It is not flattering.
Really?
But it's able to show you,
where the weight is
and give you your body mass, your BMI and all that stuff in 3D. So it's really accurate and really cool. You should check it out.
It's pretty cool. Not that it helps because you can't do target fat loss, as you know, but it's still interesting. Like, okay, so that's just to see like the fluctuations of like, okay, this is your muscle mass here and so on.
Yeah.
I am really excited. Hockey starts a week from Sunday, and I'm excited to see how maybe quicker I am.
Right.
I want to say faster, but I know that's not the right word because my mind is still young enough to say I can get the puck in that level, but then I can't get it because guys are so much faster, right? And they're younger and they're more athletic. But
30 pounds lighter though, if you have the same amount of muscle and strength, like that power is going to be.
I think that's what's going to be key. I think I'm going to be really, really excited to see how much more quicker I am. And I think that's going to be a virtue, right? For moving forward and doing that. So I'm super excited. And, I'm a little, I guess you say addicted to that kind of style now. I did a little more vegan too.
Okay.
That helped. My body, seems to respond to vegan type, lifestyle. Because it's not a diet, and if you ask a vegan, they will tell you it's not a diet.
Yeah.
So,
well, any diet should be a lifestyle.
Correct.
Like diet should not be culturally what we think of as a diet. Like your diet should just be the way that you eat.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the other thing too. I was mentioning the other evening to somebody. I said, look, this country is based off of portions.
Yeah.
And so. If
to think about.
Well, yeah, it's like I think I was grabbing some chips and I looked at the back and it said 13 chips, 190 calories. Yeah, and that's all I took was 13. And my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just doing the portion."
Yeah.
I said, if you go to other countries, some countries just only serve that portion, right? Yeah. Like a McDonald's in certain countries. I was talking to a family member in the Philippines. It's like their fries and their Coke and their burger are all one size. You don't get to supersize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so here it's like, let's jack that up threefold. And so your 190 is now, 780 and here we go.
Well, we were just talking yesterday about the rock star you had.
Yeah.
And serving size.
With the sugars and stuff like that. Yep. Absolutely.
Not I was to be like, you have some anyway.
I was watching TikTok and it's interesting because the same products in America versus whatever country, it could be UK, Canada, wherever, if you look at the ingredients, America,
dude,
other countries, right? And they're even different colors. They look different. They're same products, right? It could be a cereal or a drink or whatever. And they don't have all that poison that we have in ours. It's crazy how America, and it doesn't make you question why we are so out of shape, dude. Right? We're horrible, and you look at those ingredients, you look at all that shit that they're putting in stuff, and it's like, very deceptive, very.
And add that to the, to the schools and the districts around some of the food. Oh my goodness, it's disgusting,
right?
Especially the younger kids. I mean, I had to try a pizza one day at school because I needed something, and I don't even think it was cooked. It It was so bad. The salad bar seemed to be the nicest part of most schools. Like,
well,
but, who's going to grab the salad? The kid will grab some veggies, right? But so like even that alone is also part of the problem. And it's like not getting
their brains not functioning
and they're not,
properly.
and they get a lot of sugar, and they'll jack it up at lunch, and then they'll just get that full toss, and they'll just go straight down by the time the end of the day's there, and they're going to study by then too. Right. So it's very, very difficult, but
especially at those young ages, because you're setting the tone right there.
Right.
Yeah, it's great that they offer like the free meals here.
They do.
But it is just shit food, right?
It's really, it's
my kids take lunches, but it's not only that. Unfortunately, what I see in schools a lot, not just here, is the amount of candy that teachers give as like a reward. Don't give my kid food as a reward,
right?
Especially not candy.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's...
At the high school level, it's interesting because what they'll do is they'll just say, "What's my reward?" And I said, "Your grade."
Right? Yeah.
Like seriously, like your grade is your reward and your credit, and like all you have to do is be at this level.
Yep.
And that's, I'm not saying you have to have A's. I just you have to pass.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's reward in and of itself.
Absolutely.
That is so good that you do that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and you alluded to it that you have to be tough, but I think that's super important. I think because this world fucking sucks. We know that.
Yep.
This is school for the most part, and I've told my daughters that's the easiest part of fucking life you have, right?
Dude.
After that, it's fucking it's going downhill from there.
I talked to a staff recently at another school, and one of my students had transferred there, and this student, she was really difficult. She was on her phone constantly, didn't want to do any work, and just had an attitude. And the student and the parent kept saying, "We would like to transfer." And I said, "Listen, you're not going to go anywhere until you can learn how to attend school appropriately." And it lasted about 2 years. The student did transfer. And so what the staff was telling me was, I ran into that parent and they remembered you saying that to them.
Yeah.
That the reason now that student's more successful is because they had to practice the basics, right? Being socially appropriate, attending school, being on time, right? Just the things you would do in a job and that's the other thing I try with my students is tell them, like, when you hit the real world, man, these things you're practicing now, like that's what it's going to be. Right. And so, that was an interesting little pat on the back,
Right.
So.
Good for you. Well, and it's funny because my daughter, it's not funny. It's actually sad. My daughter, Izzy, who's in school over here. I won't even say where the school's at, but, so she's more advanced. She's super smart, super intelligent. Her one of her friends is she struggles a lot. I think that she has some form of dyslexia. I'm not sure. She struggles with reading and comprehending. Anyways, so she's in, we'll say it's a language class or I don't know what class it is. I don't even want to try and anyway. So my daughter has noticed that because she struggles in class, she gets less attention than kids who do better in class. Like she's like, the teacher is giving these other students more attention because they're good. But this student who actually, and my 16-year-old identifies this. And it's sad when a 16-year-old identifies that a teacher is giving a student who actually needs more attention, less attention because she's considered
maybe more difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And it's not that she's a difficult child. She's a great kid. I know her. She's a great kid, but she's the one that needs attention. Right.
Yep.
And that's the sad part because you can see the trajectory of life.
You can. And a lot of the students that I work with have been together a long time together too, because they've been in, certain classrooms and they've been getting a lot of support in those classrooms and haven't accessed a lot of regular education classes too. Right. And so when they finally get out there, they haven't had the ability to learn socially to what that's like to be around their peers in that type of setting where they've been in a class of maybe 8 and now you're in a class of 30.
Yeah.
And so it's just like all of a sudden it counts, right? And then they're like, whoa, what am I used to? I'm used to acting up. I'm used to having behavior. And I'm used to like hijacking the class is what I always call it. And so you're right. And so that they're looking for it.
Yeah.
And the students that I work with a lot, they'll bring it forward with whether it's language or behavior or anything that they want to do so that they do get that attention, although it's not appropriate. And then what happens? Go to the office.
Yeah.
Sit by the principal.
Get kicked out.
Spend the day there. So now they're back into where they originally were by themselves, not getting attention, and now they're missing time.
Right.
And so that's the hardest part. That's the balance that I try to do, is like finding the right appropriate supports. Now that's other teachers being in the room with them to work with other staff, or accommodations that they need in the classroom.
Like more TAs.
Yeah, maybe extra time on something, right? On assignment, or modified grade scenario, some things like that, where they could feel more successful there, because they haven't had a lot of that in their life, and all of a sudden they're just pushed into it. So it's super tough.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to imply that we should lower standards. I don't think that at all. I don't agree with lowering standards. I just think that just more like teachers, assistants, something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Would be good. I think hiring standards is what's.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with a lot of districts now is that they've got, there's what they call educational assistants, where they, they'll be there to help, but they don't pay them a lot of money.
Yeah, no, I get that too.
And it's like, I think some of those staff in our district's up to about 21 an hour now, which is like super awesome. But nobody wants to go work.
Not when you could go at McDonald's for 17 an hour.
Right. No, right. Right. Well, there's that vortex. That I tell my students too. Like, I had a student say, hey, I got myself a job and I'm working at McDonald's. I'm like, great, good job, right? And they're making minimal, right? And then they got themselves a place to live. And then this next thing you know, they go, I'm a manager. And I'm like, congratulations. But guess what? The cost of living just went up.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's where they're at. They're always in that zone, right? And they can't get out of it. And so what I always try to do is like, look, I know my journey is a little bit different than yours, but I suggest and would hope that you would try to get some form of a degree, right? To get yourself to get above that somehow, whatever that looks like. And so that's also part of the journey for students to look at that focus of, what do you want to be, but how do you get there? And, utilizing that kind of that framework for them to see how they need to jump that to get themselves.
Well, and I think a lot of, and probably primarily with the group that you work with, is a lot of these kids look at things as jobs and not careers.
Yep.
And there's a huge difference, as you and I know.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's a big difference between having a job and just working you're a worker bee, and having a career and setting yourself for the future.
Right. But
and your family.
If your role model is mom or dad, collecting SSI and just sitting around at the house playing video games, you don't have a good role model there, right? Yeah. And so you can access education, you can access me, you can access others and good teachers, right? And then go home and be in that environment again. It just brings you right back to that level. Yeah. And so a lot of them will see that and they'll go, well, I just want to stay home. I really don't want to do anything in my life because my parents don't do anything with their life.
Right.
And so that's also difficult.
That's a challenge for you.
Huge.
Because you're trying to get them to succeed, to know they can succeed in life.
Exactly.
That's so hard when you're literally surrounded. And I've had this discussion where it's like your tribe defines you. The people you hang out with literally define who you are.
Absolutely.
For a kid, God, that's got to be so, because they are defined by their parents.
Yep. Yeah, it's truly a challenge. But like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, is that getting to know them and getting to their families, that's huge. And once you know, it's okay, because then you can really start working on, because I'll be honest with you, like I coach a lot of parents more than I coach the kids.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'll call parents and be like, listen, this is what you got to do. Like, try the best you can to do this, right? Like, I know you're not used to it. It's not your pattern, but you need to break that pattern too, right? And show them that you're making that, that commitment, so.
Man,
super.
So you're on double duty off.
Dude, I know. I
imagine.
I got to tell you, it's like our journey to you and me, man, our story is, I don't know if you know this story, but this is interesting. So I was an educational assistant in the mid 90s, and you work 9 months out of the year and then you don't get paid for the summer back in those days. And so I needed a job. And so a friend of mine said, why don't you go to coast and you can get a job working there in the summer. And so I was hired to work a forklift coast to coast, and I think my hours were 4 a.m. to noon. It was actually, I'm not an early morning person, but it was cool to see the sun come up in the morning and do that. So my position was to run forklift and to take items out of the trailer, like oil and a variety of big items, and then stack it and move about the day. So one day, this trailer brought in a bunch of Toro riding lawnmowers. And these are big boys, right? So I'm forklifting these things and I'm stacking them. And at coast to coast, these warehouses, they put stuff way up there, right? Yeah. It's super scary. A lot of anxiety when I walk into Costco, let alone doing that for a job, right?
Right.
So I get the fork up and I'm putting this lawnmower up on the top, and it's like shaking. And I finally get it up and I put the lawnmower and I pull out the fork, and it stayed. And I'm like, oh my God. So I turn the forklift. Well, I forgot to bring the fork down. So it hits a bunch of mason jars. Oh, and here they come. Shatter all over the floor.
Ooh, shit.
So I was pulled off the fork, obviously. And I was moved to the back, and I was put into packaging. And packaging, what you do is you unload trailer, and you have to get some type of a, order form, order slip, and then you end up finding the items. You have to put them together. Well, my supervisor was your uncle.
My brother.
Your brother, Vickers, right? Yep. Yeah. So Vickers was there, and he was my supervisor. And so we connected. And as we were connecting and working, he said, hey, I have season tickets to Oregon football. And I'm like, dude, do you have any extra tickets? He says, I think every year I have about 2. And so Vickers would sell me tickets. Each year, and we meet up at the Holiday Inn, which isn't even the Holiday Inn anymore in Coburg. It's like Mod Pizza and everything there. I know that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so Vickers would always meet me there, or I'd see him at Court Sports or at the gym, and he would swap tickets. So then he moved to Colorado.
Yep.
So they moved to Colorado, and then you came.
I was the delivery
guy. So he was a middleman between Colorado and me, and I didn't even know that was Mike, right? So he'd just sell me tickets and go, and then I got your phone number, and then we were that. So we'd see each other at the gym once in a while.
Yeah.
And then we'd say hello and how it's going. And then just happened to walk outside one day, and I saw your car, and it said, High Pride Detail.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, is that your business? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, wait a minute. Dude, I've seen this guy before. And then I was like, you sold me tickets for years in that parking lot. For Oregon season tickets, man. And that's how we kind of connected. And it was like, it's such, look at small and small and small, right? How small the world is, but not how small Eugene is.
Right.
That was super crazy, man, that we kind of connected that way.
And you've been a friend and a client since.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. That's been great.
Yeah.
No, right on, man.
Yeah. It is an interesting world how things kind of spiral into place.
Absolutely.
So what else? What's next for you? When are you going to retire?
Well, he's got to get his doctorate.
Yeah, you get. Oh, well,
but you know what? That's okay because I got 5 more years, and the reason I'm doing that is I want to work. There's a variety of things that are, financially and insurance wise and things like that. Why I probably don't want to get out now. Yeah, we're at 60, as I want to work another 5. Plus, you know what? I like what I do.
Yeah, and
I just don't feel like. Right now in Oregon, you can retire and double dip and go back in, and I'm sure they're going to grab you and say, "Please come to work because we need people." But after the doctorate, my goal is I really want to start working with university level online education programs, kind of like what I'm doing right now, where you do 7.5-week courses, then take a break.
As in design the courses?
Design the courses, okay. I'll probably do some type of things around curriculum and instruction and work on that type of leadership for students. But I really want to do the university level. I think it would be something I've always been interested in, and now
at the College of Education, maybe would that link up with those guys?
It might be that. University of Phoenix and some of those programs that are online programs are great programs for students because they're very accommodating to those that are in the workforce, and so when you're working and able to do that, that's what I like. A lot of universities are going that way. COVID hit a bunch, and it really started a lot of it. So I'm really hip on that type of education and teaching. So. I could do it now with my master's, but I really want to be able to really be at that. Have that doctor, man. I want to be Dr. Mancuso. Right? That's the thing. Right?
Well, and then there's going to be a book. There's got to be a book, right? You're going to write a book at some point because everybody does.
I think so. Yeah. I myself have a variety of things I wake up with every morning. I have Tourette syndrome. And so if I rewatch this video, I'll probably see my nervous tics happen. And so that'll be something to be interesting. And then I have anxiety, a pretty high level anxiety. I get up every morning, take my anxiety medication, move through the day. And so it's very, very difficult with I have AFib too. And so I've had that start about 5 years ago. And so my heart rate would start getting jacked during certain activities or not during any activity. And so I got that under control now. So I tell my students the same thing. Like, I wake up every morning, I have to accept and commit to this day, right? Just this day, and be able to access what I need to do. And so my sense of instruction and looking back, kind of what you're mentioning about, being disciplined for either bad behavior or not. I remember I had to be in 6th grade, 5th grade, and in the 70s, man. So you got hit with a paddle.
Yeah.
Or you got the belt,
the
man,
one with
back
the
in the
hole
day
in it.
for something. And I remember this teacher, she came up to me and she said, "Hey, I got an award for you because you got an A on your spelling test." And came in, and it was after school. It was just her and I, and she had this big old lollipop, and she says, "Congratulations." And then she says, "Now bend over because your tics were going crazy." And she whacked me like 5 or 6 times. For having, for that. And I always remember, like you said, I just remember, like you were talking about husband, right? About that memory.
Yeah.
And I remember that. I remember just kind of running home crying, like, what? I don't know what I'm doing because my tics are involuntary, right? It's like, I wish I could control most of it. But, and so that memory to me has been something that's really driven me around just being an advocate for those with disabilities and knowing myself, like it's something that Tourette's are very different because it's different for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
There was one, I think you might have seen it, 60 Minutes did one, and there's a lot of students that make noises or they do a variety of things out loud, right? Like mine is more facial. I did do some noises and some arm jerks when I was a kid, but the older I got, it seems like it's just more kind of around the nose, the eyes. And so that's one of the things that I've been kind of an advocate for.
So I'm curious, she gives you a lollipop and then whacks you.
Yeah.
That's
it's heartbreaking to
that's
me.
interesting. But did they think back then that would, the physical punishment would help reduce the tics?
Like the lack of comprehension of like what was going on. Maybe?
Yeah, correct. And I just don't think at that point, right. I think it was like, this is going to decrease the amount of noises or jerks or any type of tics that you have. That's going to be
like they thought you were doing it on purpose, maybe for like attention or something.
Could be, probably.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like now, like comprehension of like what Tourette's is.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? That's not going to do any good whatsoever. You're
right.
That I don't know.
And my anxiety too is, I have OCD, and anxiety and OCD are kind of combined, right? So your obsessive compulsive disorders, and I'm kind of a germaphobe, right? So a lot of things that I do are kind of tied into that. Yeah. But you're talking about a book, is I did write.
You did sanitize his headset.
Yeah, right.
I also know him. I also know him. I do that every time, but I do know that
I know, but I was like, he probably appreciates
I did
that.
write some little shorts, and I call them, it's called Diary of Anxiety. And I've written kind of like, whether it's the anxiety moments of real high level anxiety, or if it's been having a panic attack or whatever that was in the past. I kind of want to do that as a theater piece. Mm-hmm. And be on stage to kind of go through those. And so that's going to be kind of my book, is kind of like more in that realm of what that's like. But yeah.
So for people to have the understanding of what it is like
visual
to go through.
Well, I think it's that, but I think it's just those that know that you can connect, right? They go, I know exactly what that's like.
Right.
That's funny. What I tell teachers sometimes is, you can line up 100 students outside on the wall, right? Tell me which one has anxiety.
Yeah.
You don't know. It's not physical. And so it's very different, like, to get to know students and understand what's going on inside of them, because, somebody, just because they sit in the back and they're quiet doesn't mean they have anxiety, right? Like there's a variety of different things that kind of play in that role. So, so that's one of the things that I kind of want to do, like you mentioned, is just have a connection to know that, I know what that's like, and feel that, or be able to go, I need to understand that more, and study that.
So does the anxiety feed into the AFib?
It has,
or vice versa.
It has. It has.
Both ways.
But right now, it hasn't.
Okay.
But I think it has a little bit. I think it really kind of kickstarts. But I was playing hockey one Sunday about a year ago, and my heart rate went to 200.
Ooh.
And I'm like looking at my watch. This has actually been my savior, is getting this watch, because it does your EKG and everything on it. But man, I was like, whoa, this is getting pretty jacked up, and you can feel it. And I feel, my wife could say, and others, is that I get angry.
Yeah.
Because I feel it, and it's frustrating because it doesn't go away right away. Although mine just kicks out. Like, I don't have it all the time. Like, my mom has it, and she has it constantly, and she's had surgeries and things. And so hers is kind of like, she can't feel hers, but it's just happening and it's under control. Mine, I just feel it and I just get mad.
Like when your heart starts to go faster?
It just flutters and moves and goes faster and skips and does a variety of things. It's just if you look at an EKG of it, it's just like, wow, it's crazy.
It'd be annoying as hell.
Yeah. So yeah, it has. And so, but now it's like having both of those things, under control. It's like, I just feel like I can really focus on everything I need to do. Right. Yeah. So it's just one less piece that's part of that process. But yeah, it has, to answer that. Yeah.
Interesting. So give me some closing thoughts.
Well, one of my famous quotes is, always pay attention to those who don't clap when you win. Because I really feel like you said, we don't get enough wins. Yeah. And, my numbers are pretty low when it comes to what I do for a living, right? And what I enjoy doing. But I really pay attention to those people. They may not be enemies, but they're definitely paying attention for a reason. Yeah. And it may not be for a good reason, but I want to make sure that you know that. And like you said, man, your friend base has got to be tight. The older you get, your friend base disappears like you thought it was when you were younger. Yeah. But having the ability to really be tight with a small group and keep those close.
Supported group.
Yep. Love your family, man. Hug your kids. Yep. It's like my grandsons. I got 2 boys right now, and Leo and Oliver. And it's like, I actually like, seems like my grandson, my oldest Leo, he's 3. He's like, seems like my best friend, right? It's like, cause you're always wanting to play and do things you did to make you younger. Yeah. I never played with cars when I was a kid, and I play with cars every day, right? Like, it's like something we do all the time, and watching that growth and being part of that family. And my Sicilian family, man, we're all tight, like, cousins and aunts and uncles and everybody. It's just, we love that part of your culture, to stay involved in your culture. Yeah. And love that part of your life, So I think it's a part of something that's, really, really key to you if you want to make it. Yeah. I think that's why I try and tell a lot of families, you have it, like, make it work.
Right. Make it work. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Joe Mancuso, everybody.
It's cool, man.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Yes, sir.
It's one clap I needed.
Right.